Hi everybody, Professor McCrimmon here checking in with you on a beautiful Sunday morning. Just wanted to show you a couple of things just in case my print instructions aren't working, but it really looks like they are because everybody's doing great. But I want to make sure you know all of the little shortcuts and tricks of working with Salon. First of all, I've noticed Salon does work better, by the way, with Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome than it works with Internet Explorer or Safari. So if you're having trouble with speed issues with Salon because it's kind of a startup, I don't know how much really they've got going over there in Carnegie Mellon when it comes to processing power and all of that, and server. I don't know what all that looks like, but I just noticed that Firefox and Chrome work better than Internet Explorer and Safari. Anyway, but to the visuals here. So when you first open Salon and log in and use your password, this is typically going to be the first thing that comes up, recent activity, which I usually just skip past because it's kind of random use, really. It's just the most recent posts from your classmates. I did notice one thing that you could do here. You could go straight to view mode, which I recommend highly, by clicking on the little eyeball that appears on every single post that's made here. So this is a nice little shortcut, as it turns out, to take you directly into view mode, which I think is the best mode to work with for your follow-up annotations, because it does not give you a clean text, but you don't really want a clean text during your follow-up annotations because you really want to be able to see what other people have said about various poems that you found interesting, or texts later on in the course. So as you scroll down and think about, let's say you've got more you want to say about To My Dear and Loving Husband, and you notice a line that's got a little bit more dark coloring to it, meaning that there's been a couple of comments, in this case 6 or so, including 2 from Jasmine, and there's another thing that Stephanie said, and Erica and Ariel and Monica. So there's quite a few comments about this one line from this poem, and if you wanted to, say, join that discussion for your follow-up annotations, you just click on join this discussion and you're right in the thick of things, and it shows up and counts as one of your follow-up annotations. That's why I like the view mode the best. Now, when you're back in the discussion navigator mode, which is the sort of the default mode into which you are put when you click on collection 1. If you don't click on anything other than just collection 1, as you know, this will look fairly familiar to you. This is what generally pops up once you click on a collection if you don't choose another mode. This is the default. Now, this has some nice features, but I'm having a hard time getting used to it. Maybe because I'm more used to the view mode, which they had before. This is now their new default mode. Love the the hot zones, the fact that you can see this is a line that was commented on several people, but my problem is I click on it, I don't see anything. The comments don't come up, and that's because I'm used to working with the view mode, where you can still get that to happen. But what you can do over here is, let's say if you're clicking through here, now it looks like maybe I did finally figure out how to do that. I think these are all comments. I think I just double-clicked that. I think that's how that worked. So maybe that's how you do it. Okay, so maybe it does work just about as well as the view mode. That's good news. You can see I'm learning something every time, right? These are about 6 or 7 comments on this little section from the prologue of Bradstreet, and so it's got what these folks have said. It's got what Jessica said, and Ariel and Monica and Tasha and Nathan and Diana. So, and of course you could reply to any of these and do your own thing. One of the things I do like about Discussion Navigator is when you're just clicking on something, and I think if you just want to make a comment, I think you have to get out of here. Yeah, here we go. So if you want to make a comment on something like this, what's cool is that you can actually double-click this tag space to get my tags. So if you want to say something about, oh, this represents a wife or something like that, that's cool. But you can also type in your own. So if you want to make a comment about, here's a comment on that seems to suggest something about currency or something like that, you can create your own tag, as many of you did. So thank you for doing that. I thought that was really cool. But let me show you a couple of other things. When you're in Collection 1, when you click up on Collection 1 up here, this is what's going to give you the opportunity to switch over to these other modes. This is one of the ways you can switch over. So if you want to get back over to View mode for your follow-up annotations, this is still my favorite mode, because here you can find a point in the text, and right on top of it come all of the comments that folks have made to that line of the text. So you can just do that throughout. So if you know what you want to work on, and you know exactly what you want to see what all your other classmates said. This is not arranged by group, of course, but the follow-up annotations really are supposed to be to everybody in the class anyway, because everybody can see everybody's stuff. So I like View. Let me just say that I think when you're first starting a unit, let me go back all the way to the home page here. So let's say by Friday night, you've got your next set of annotations due, your initial set of annotations for Unit 2. If you go to My Salons, Our Salon, and then Collection 2. Now, what you might want to get into the habit of doing here is not clicking on this so much, but clicking on the mode in which you want to look at this. So you have View, which is the eyeball, if you want to go straight into View. You have this pen, which is the annotate mode, which is, I think, preferable for starting out a unit. And then you have this, you have the dashboard mode, which shows you a lot of things, which I'll show you in a second. Let me just show you, if you want a clean copy, and a number of you said to me, I really want to be able to just read the text at first and not see what anybody else has said. If that's the case, click on the pen and go to Annotate, and you will get a clean text for next week's unit. And you could still do the same thing with any unit, even the first unit, just by looking at it in Annotate mode. So you're in Annotate mode now, and if you have something you want to say about it, passage from Thomas Harriot, you just do the highlight it, and then the annotation space will come up. And you will have some tags to choose from that I've provided for you, again, as I do in every unit. If you want to create your own tags, I think you have to do that in Discussion Navigator. So one other mode to show you, you may or may not be familiar with it, is you can look at the dashboard. So I'm going back out again just to kind of show you again, remind you how all this happens. You can go straight into, let's say, Collection 1's dashboard by clicking on this little I, this little small lowercase I, which I guess stands for information. If you click on that, you'll come into something called the dashboard. I don't know how many of you have really looked at this. This is kind of what I use to establish your, basically to establish your, to calculate your grade for the annotations. What this shows you is a complete feed of everything that's happened with this text. And I believe there's certain things you can do by clicking on one of these comments. Yeah, I think if you click on it, yeah, you get the actual comment itself. So you can actually read through what people have said. Probably this will take you straight to the point in the text, maybe in the Discussion Navigator mode. But that's if you really want to get into the details of it. But there are other ways to see these comments. But in any case, you can look at something like this, and this will actually show you how many comments each student has made. This will show you how many responses each student has made, and as you know, this is one of your options for your annotations. You can always use those to respond to my reading questions for the unit, but most of you, I think, are using those response questions as the foundation of your reading response or perhaps your group response. So, but the dashboard is a nice feature that Salon includes. So I'll leave it at that for Salon for now. I'm sure there's some other things that we will discover that are useful, but we'll come back to those later. I want to show you one quick thing while I've still got the camera going here that's more immediately useful to you, and that is how to do your GRs. As you know, I think by now, one of the more important course documents for you to look at on Blackboard is this reading responses, group responses, and annotations, which I'll go ahead and open up. You can see here that I've got some instructions on all of these assignments, generic instructions, and the group response instructions are a little bit more detailed because I have kind of a generic set of questions that I want you all to address, at least for starters, with each group response that we do. Because remember, these GRs are kind of the chance you have to kind of wrap up the whole unit. So, and then of course after all of this are all of my questions for the semester related to the 8 collections of readings, which I think several of you I've talked to have decided to just print this out because it's a nice kind of study guide for the whole course. These questions are the exact ones that appear in the classroom Salon. They're embedded into each collection on Salon. So if you ever want to answer these on Salon, you just go to annotate mode, and then over on the right hand side you'll see an invitation to respond. I'll go ahead and show you that while I'm on the subject, and just so you can see what that looks like. Back into Salons, and I'll go ahead and do that little shortcut I was teaching you, which is to go to the pen here, the little pen. Click on that. Let's do it for collection 2. It'll come up as a clean text. Over here on the right, under Respond, are all of my questions for the second unit. As you'll see, there's a lot more for the subsequent units than there was for the first unit. Those couple of questions about Bradstreet and the poems. Most of the rest of the units will actually have maybe 10 questions or so. And these are things you can answer on Salon if you don't feel like annotating, or you can do a mix, or you can answer these as part of your reading response, or even as your group response, or as your follow-up annotation. You know, they're just the study questions, and you can get at these however and whenever you want. But back over to Blackboard for a second. Just want to show you what a typical experience would look like for tomorrow night, for instance. Now, as you know, if you're in Group 1, Group Discussion Board, you click on that. You know that thanks to Becky, she made a lot of responses right off the bat to people's RRs, which was great, and that's why there's 18 posts here, but there's really just the 7 group members who have participated in RR1. The trick here is to go ahead and start in GR1 now that all of the follow-up annotations have been made. What I wanted to do is create a fresh, clean space for you to work with. So if you're the first to post, you would go to Create Thread, and then you would have, you know, your space into which I recommend you copy and paste whatever you want to say about the unit. Now, the thing about RR1s, or the thing about the GRs that you want to know, is that if you want to collect all of the RR1s, there is a trick to doing that you may have understood, you may have realized by now. If you open up RR1, you can come over here, click on this top box, and then click on Collect. And you'll be able to actually read everybody's responses. I still recommend that you compose offline and then copy and paste into the group response field here, just because Blackboard can be a little bit quirky. But as you're over there in Group 1, and let's say you've composed something offline, you can just title your GR1. Let's say you wanted to say something directly to a classmate. You could always do that, something like that. And then copy and paste your material, and then submit, and then you're all set. So, in any case, I'll talk to you soon, and appreciate your attention. I hope this is helpful.